Hello, everyone. My name is Luis Rodriguez. I'm part of the founder experience team here at Sharetribe. I was able to contact Gaurav, and he was kind enough to allow us to create this event where he will showcase what he has been doing with DriveLab. A quick introduction to Gaurav. Gaurav Singhal is an engineer by training from IT Delhi, but just as much a business operator. He spent 15 years inside global MNCs before he decided to go and build something himself. In 2019, he and his co-founder Dirk-Jan founded DriveLab, or as some of you might know it, DriveMate in Australia, which is a peer-to-peer car sharing marketplace. They've since raised over 12 million US dollars and scaled it into one of the leading share mobility platforms across Singapore and Australia. Now, we hear a lot from AI technologists. Gaurav is an AI operator, and that's a very different thing. While much of the industry is still talking about what AI might do, he's been running it inside a live marketplace every day for more than 2 years, experimenting from the very beginning and using it to grow faster and turn the business profitable. He's not here to talk theory, he's going to actually show us exactly how they've done it. So, without further ado, Gaurav, welcome and take it away.
Thanks, Louis. Thank you for a very nice introduction and very kind introduction, Louis. Hello, everyone. My name is Gaurav Singhal. I am one of the co-founders of DriveLab. As Louis mentioned, we started DriveLab. Me and my co-founder, Dirk-Jan, who's also on the call, started DriveLab in 2019 with Sharetribe. We're going to talk about a few things around AI implementation in DriveLab today. Just to give you a background, 15 months ago, DriveLab was burning about $2.5 million US dollars a year. And today, we are profitable. The team is 55% smaller and the business is much bigger. That's the whole talk today. Everything after this, how we did it, what worked and what didn't, and what I tell you to do on a Monday morning. We are built on Sharetribe, as a lot of you already know. So a lot of what I'm going to show you today sits directly on top of the same platform that many of you are running. Two promises for today. I will show you some of the work live, the agents in action. I'm not going to give you theory. And I'll also be trying to be honest about things where things didn't go well. It's not always, as you all know, with any of these implementations. It doesn't go right the first time. It's as important to know about what worked as to what didn't work. Moving on to the next. If we look at who we are first, we are a peer-to-peer car sharing business where people rent out their cars to their neighbors, people whoever needs a car. We are in 12 cities across Singapore and Australia, more than 4,500 cars, 400,000 users, registered users, $15 million in revenue, $12 million raised, as Louis also mentioned earlier. Two things I would like you to notice. One is that we built this on Sharetribe from scratch. While we did one acquisition along the way, most of the thing has been built organically. So we do carry the messy reality of a marketplace that grew fast, not a clean lab setup. Two, we have our own IoT technology for keyless access, which means we are not just software, but hardware as well. Physical cars, real damages, real disputes. And that matters because a marketplace like ours, every trip can generate a support ticket, a payment issue, a verification, a claim. And that's the cost problem that a lot of marketplaces do go through. And that's some of the cost problems that we're going to talk about and how AI helped us solve. But before I go further, I wanted to introduce our team to you. So this is our team. You see, it's me and Dirk-Jan who are co-CEOs. We have a leadership team. We have people in finance, Stella, Maya, Clara, and Nora, customer ops, Doris, Kate, Vera, and Victor, marketing, Fiona, Harper, and Jade. And in product engineering, we have Arya, Leo, Mira, and Zane. Everybody reports into a leadership layer, whether it's CFO, CPO, CTO, or our CMO. Every single name that I just took is an AI agent in our company. All of them, 20 plus enterprise-grade agents working 24/7. The human team is a leadership layer on top of these agents. The human team sets directions, handles exceptions, and reviews. That's their role now. The agents that you see on the slide, they aren't chatbots. Each of them owns a workflow. So for example, I'll talk about how Stella, who is our account receivable manager, collected more than $500,000 of revenue, of incremental bottom line actually for us in 8 months. Fiona is a sales agent who negotiates and sells our long-term rentals. So I'm going to show a bunch of them working live today to you. But first, why did we do all of this in the first place? 15 months back, we had just closed our Series A. We were growing fast, but our systems could not handle the growth, increased a lot of operation pressure. We had already moved to a lower cost model because our engineering team was based out of India and our customer service in the Philippines. And we did have a small local presence in respective countries like Singapore and Australia. However, we were not making a profit. As said, we were losing more than $2.5 million a year. Growth was improving our earnings, but profit was not much in sight. And we would receive no more funding. Actually, it was pretty difficult to raise funding after that until we reached profitability. So the real incentive for us to look for a transformation was not that we just wanted to adopt AI. We had no option but to look for avenues where we can boost our profitability and also drive growth at the same time. And that is when, this is in late 2024, very early 2025, is when this whole AI wave was just starting, but people had started talking about AI agents, AI in enterprises, AI in companies, but it was still very early days. And that's where we started experimenting with deploying AI in our workflows. We were at 88 people 15 months back, and now we're at 35 people, 55% fewer FTEs. This quarter is the first quarter where we have touched profitability. So we have hit our goal this quarter. We transformed 6 key business processes while doing this. And our human team, as said before, is now focused on the most important, difficult, and the most challenging part of the job, right? So with this, we got a lot of P&L leverage because not just we reduced cost, but we kept driving growth. Of course, we did slash down our team. We reduced the number of team members, but the people who are there in the team, they are focused on high value work. And this resulted definitely in the full turnaround of the company, transformation of the company, wherein we went from being loss-making to becoming profitable, whereby maintaining the growth that we needed to. I'm going to show you a couple of stories, actually 6 stories today with the time that we have, and try and show some of these things live in action. So let's talk about story number 1, Stella, who is our accounts receivable agent. And Stella was one of the first stories that we actually started with when we started implementing AI in our business. The challenge was that in Australia, we were collecting only 75% of what was owed to us. So people rent a car, they bump the car somewhere, and they owe us money, but we were only collecting 71% of it. So bad debt was climbing. We tried the standard answer, hired a lot of more collections people. It didn't work. Chasing payment is repetitive. It's emotionally draining. Also, people avoid it, and it's just not scalable. So we started experimenting with plugging Stella into, we built Stella on top of the Sharetribe data, because Sharetribe has all the trip data, all the user data, all the car data. And we connected to Stripe because Stripe has all the transactions data, which sits within Sharetribe and outside of Sharetribe also. Some of the transactions were happening, let's say invoice payments were happening outside of Sharetribe. Stella was bad at first. Wrong tone, wrong timing, chasing people who had already paid. Within a few weeks, she was already outperforming our human team. Final result, our collection rate went up from 17% to 89%. We collected in 8 months an incremental of 515,000 Australian dollars. Bad debt came down by 66%, and it straight away went into our bottom line. Let me first show you a quick Stella example. And so this is the communication of Stella, wherein Stella reaches out to a customer saying that they owe us $205. So Stella, the moment somebody owes us money, Stella would reach out to them and ask them to pay. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but then the person says, oh yeah, I already answered Evelyn yesterday about the payment, etc. The dog's hairs are not because of me. This is a classic case that we get possibly on an everyday basis. But then Stella explains why this money is absolutely that she needs to pay. There are no two ways about it. Gives her the payment link, and the customer continues arguing, and you see that at the end of it, this is a cleaning and maintenance fee, she explains, and then at the end of it, keeps reminding the customer what would happen if the customer doesn't pay, and at the end of it, the customer ends up paying. So you have customers who don't want to pay, who will keep delaying, and this conversation would have taken the human team a lot of effort over days trying to convince them, but this is completely automated now end to end. One more example, and before I move to the next one, is that people sometimes ask for details. So, okay, what is this for? Could you please share the invoice for these costs? So then Stella gets into our system, the Sharetribe system, the Stripe system, and pulls out all the invoice details and sends it back to the customer, and straight away, yeah, and then the customer paid, right? So the point is that it becomes a lot easier than if you have your data sitting in one place. And as said, this was built on top of Sharetribe data and Stripe data because that's where all the data is sitting. So as you would see, I will use the word term data a lot in this presentation, and that's what matters a lot for your AI implementations. What one of our learnings was. Again, don't go for perfect. That was our understanding. That's what we learned. We have to deploy good enough and keep chipping away every week, review it. In fact, we also deployed agents to monitor our agents. So there was an agent like Stella going live, and there was an agent which was monitoring Stella on top. Of course, we had a human team monitoring Stella very critically in the first few weeks to improve her. But on an ongoing basis, we have deployed monitor agents, as we like to call them, on top of our deployed agents to make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to do. Let's talk about customer service, our largest team. The challenge, about 7,000 tickets we were getting every month. We run on Intercom, which is our customer support platform. More than 70% of our conversations, is what we realized, was very specific to a person and their case. So what I mean by that is people are not talking about when they come to our customer support and say, hey, how does your insurance work? And how does pick up and drop off work? Those are generic questions that people do ask sometimes, but majority, more than 70% of the conversations are about, oh, what happened to that trip? What happened to my refund? Why did the host cancel? Can I get another car? And very specific problems. Now, this creates a classic problem wherein if you don't have your data in one place, one single source of truth, then your agents or any systems you deploy will not be able to effectively answer the question back, which is what we did. We constructed a data layer with Sharetribe, in Intercom, in Stripe, plus there were some things on Google Sheets, and we integrated everything, created a unified layer on top. Real-time context was absolutely critical. So if somebody is standing at a car and needs the code to open the car, the agent should be able to give the code straight away without any latency. And that's where we came to. The agents started handling more than 5,000 tickets a month. We went down from 36 FTEs to 22 FTEs. Before we did this, earlier the thing was, as we were growing in revenue, we had to add more people in customer support. But now that's no longer the case. We have gone down from 36 to 22. It can be further be optimized, but the fact remains that it does not go linearly with the business growth. 40% of the queries are resolved even without a human, and the CSAT, the customer satisfaction of customers with AI agents was higher that we found versus the human team. You would still need the human team for some complex cases, don't get me wrong. Very complex cases, we have trained our systems to escalate to human teams. But a lot of the daily rut is handled by the agents pretty simply. Let me just show you an example of that. So Kate is our customer support agent in Australia. So they're asking, okay, what is this charge for? $44. So you see, it's very specific to their case. And then she would explain their total charge was this. This includes the base rent replies, blah, 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 blah. So for this, Kate needed to know how to read a receipt. What are the different charges as part of the receipt? So that is the kind of business context and the unified context layer I was talking about that we have built in our business, taking all lot of data sources. Sharetribe, with all the integrations of the APIs available, again, becomes extremely easy to build that unified context layer. But without that unified context layer, you cannot deploy anything, because Sharetribe and Intercom and Stripe, these three sources, for us especially, had to talk together to be able to equip the agent to answer back. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And then, the customer finds it solved, right? So that's how you resolve queries. You resolve queries with actual data rather than saying a lot of AI agents we see around us, when you talk to them, the moment it gets complicated, the moment it becomes very data specific, they would tend to escalate to human team. Our systems, we have trained them to escalate when we think it's getting into a tricky situation with the customer, possibly emotionally, etc. Or let's say it's a roadside issue, somebody got into an accident during a trip. Those kind of issues straight away go to the human team. But most of the queries we know can be handled through the data that exists in the system. This customer is asking about, okay, how much can I earn on a daily basis as a car host? So this is slightly a general question, yes, and very easy for an AI agent to handle and not required to waste time of a human team to do that. And somebody's asking about their eligibility and about the car prices and can the car be delivered. Straightforward for the AI agent to look up the data. Can this car be delivered here? Yes, absolutely. So what you would see is that's how it helps. But a couple of learnings for us when it comes to the customer support agent. The first one was, as I said repeatedly, get to one version of the truth. Generic support agents, they don't work, and especially in our business, and I believe a lot of marketplaces wherein customers are asking always about their issues, their particular order, their particular delivery. That is what they're interested in. They're not interested in generic chatbots, and I think that also really kills the customer experience in our view. Coming to the third one, and this one is very specific for especially when we were in early stages, is what we learned. While we've implemented the solution right now in the last 12 months, but I wish this solution was available earlier. We did ignore finance early on, and we do know that a lot of startups do ignore finance. Once you go and try to raise funding, data room will eat you alive. We had bookkeeping across multiple countries, compliance in each, payables, investor reporting, and we did have a big finance team to carry it. So whatever money we had, we were putting it in marketing. You don't invest behind having a big finance team. So what we have done now over the last 15 months, that we have built our own system of finance on top of Sharetribe, again, Stripe and Intercom and other data sources. Same principle as support, one unified layer of truth across countries, and the finance function on top of it. Run seamlessly, fully automated. We don't use any accounting software anymore. Zero accounting software, no QuickBooks, no Xero, nothing. We have built our own system. And that is what now, with the advent of AI, it has become possible that you build your own systems which run on your existing data sets. It's not a huge migration, but the amount of flexibility it gives you to run the way you want to run your business, it's just unbelievable. So I'll give you an example of what we do now on finance. This is our own admin console that we have built together. And now let's say I go to finance. Then you would see, of course, we have collections, we have an AI powered accounting. You would see this is all we have built ourselves. And while you see a lot of tabs, 95% of the work is happening automated in the background. This is only for us to view, right? What are the chart of accounts? What are the bank accounts? What are the transactions? All the transactions of the banks are being pulled automatically. You would see, let's say, if I want to run a month-end reconciliation, and I just put this up as a demo, month-end reconciliation and month-end reporting usually takes days, if not weeks. But with the system that we have built, we close the books the same day. And that's how this has been built. Reports become extremely easy, consolidated report, entity level reports. So this is something that we have used a lot of course, AI in building this, but also backend, a lot of automations are running to get us these reports, get us this data, pull the data together and make it meaningful for us. So this is not about saving your QuickBooks or a Xero subscription. This is all about making sure that it becomes easy for you as you go along and expand your business. So 95% of our transactions, bank transactions, Stripe transactions, they're fully classified automatically. We don't have to do anything. At our revenue of $15 million, we have zero people in finance. Zero. So we just have one person who makes a few payments to vendors sometimes in the Philippines, but that's all. That's all we have. If we look at learnings from here, people do get overwhelmed by volume and detail. AI does not get overwhelmed. So if you set it up correctly, if you set up a mechanism for it to learn continuously, which is what we have done, which is not something which was very much applicable to the previous agents, as much as it is applicable here, because it has to understand your finance system, understand your reporting system, understand the geography you are in, so that the financial jurisdiction of those geographies, compliance of those geographies become all the more important. And again, Dirk-Jan and myself, we always say this to each other. We wish we were able to do this earlier, but it's definitely great to be in this position to be able to do this ourselves now and not dependent on Google Sheets and Excel to do this for us. It saves a lot of heartburn, especially when you have a lot of investors on your board. If you look at customer onboarding, customer verification onboarding is how we keep the wrong people away from other people's cars. We are in the business of peer-to-peer sharing. A car is a movable asset. If we get wrong people into the door, it can cost us a lot of money. So demand comes in peaks and troughs. So we are staffed for the peak, 5 people, 9 to 5, which meant somebody signing up on a Friday night maybe has to wait till Saturday morning before the team comes in. And by the time they've already booked a car somewhere else. The action we took was we deployed an agent which does all the checks in parallel, automated. The agent is talking to government APIs, pulling all the information, checking for, we are integrated with Onfido, so getting live data from Onfido, ensuring that all the checks that a human team does, doing Google search on people, doing a lot of other checks that we require to do, Stripe radar scores, we have internal risk scores, you name it, and tries to achieve a confidence score on the verification. If the AI agent is reasonably confident, then they approve or decline. If they're not confident, we have set confidence thresholds, they will hand it over to the team. Result, earlier a verification which during the team's presence used to take 3 to 4 hours, actually till few months back was taking 47 seconds. I'll show you the live dashboard. Right now it's 39.8 seconds if I'm not wrong. 75% of verification is automated. But the other side effect of this verification being quicker is that our first time activation rate went up, which we didn't expect. So first time activation rate went up by 41%. And actually that was the bigger one. So the cost saving is not the big idea here. The idea was because we were approving people quickly, onboarding people quickly, answering them quickly in seconds rather than hours. Our activation rate, people who came to the platform, applied to drive on a platform, they were getting approved quicker versus earlier. So if you look at, let's say, our dashboard right now, the verification agent dashboard, what it tells you is that 40% success rate means we are approving 4 out of 10 automatically. Around 26% people are going for review, and some people are being asked to redo their application, and some are getting rejected. And you see the average processing time, 39.8 seconds, decision breakdown, how many people it's declining, how is the processing time moving, what are the decline reasons. All of this data is in real time. So yeah, that's how Vera works. Moving to Fiona, who is our sales agent. The challenge was that we sell short-term rentals as well as long-term subscriptions. We had 3 people chasing long-term subscription contracts off Facebook ads. So people used to click on a Facebook ad, go to Messenger, chat with our agent, and buy a long-term subscription contract. But the problem was that our team was working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So somebody clicks an ad at 9 p.m. on a Saturday, and people usually scroll through ads in the evening when they're going to bed or something. And then somebody clicks on an ad, and they're hot, ready to buy, and waits until Monday for the conversion to happen. So Fiona lives in Facebook Messenger. She qualifies the lead, presents the right vehicles, handles the pricing objections, negotiates. She got better with time. So when somebody's ready to sign, she hands it over to ops. And this is a classic case of an agent interacting with the team, and I'll show you how. But it just works beautifully because our entire team is on Slack. So Fiona is interacting with our team on Slack. That's how it works. So we've gone from 3 FTEs to 0. Conversion has gone up by 60%. All the leads are being answered in minutes. They don't have to wait. So again, give you an example of this. So because all our Facebook Messenger also comes into Intercom, Fiona would ask somebody, okay, where do you want the car? She says, Cobbly, okay, fine. Then Fiona will connect to Sharetribe via the Sharetribe APIs, pull all the cars available with all the pricing, photos, and details. And that's where we have integrated heavily with Sharetribe APIs to Fiona to do this. And there's a playbook that Fiona has. Fiona has also been given leeway to negotiate with customers. So if customers do tend to negotiate, then Fiona will answer back like that, right? She's trying to finalize what the car and the price, and then she gives the next steps, talks about the deposit, asks for mobile number, and what she then does is, and this is the most interesting part, which I would show you now, wherein she would then write to our Flex Plus channel. Flex Plus is the name of a product, and send the detail on Slack straight away to the team, right? So almost behaves like your own team member, coordinates with the team, and make sure that the operations team on ground is aware of this contract being signed. That's how this works. So yeah, this was pretty interesting. Everyone is aware about this, I guess, wherein the tech development has become a lot easier. Earlier we had 14 FTEs, now it's gone to 6. doing 5 to 6x more throughput than we were doing before. And we use primarily Claude Code, although you could use anything, it doesn't matter really. I'm going to talk about it a little more, and the models really don't matter. There's a lot of hype on X, on LinkedIn, oh, this model, that model. In our experience, it's how you use it matters. What model you use rarely matters, in my view. The hard part on the tech side was change management. You need people with the right mindset. Some people in the tech arena still have a lot of baggage, if I would say, of the traditional. You have this romanticized view of being wanting to code everything yourself, but I think that ship has sailed, and the cost of experimenting is very low. You can build things quickly, fail, do the next thing. It's gone from weeks to days to hours now, really. And I'm not telling you anything new. Most of you would know about it, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Now, how did we do this? A lot of people, when we talk to them, they think it is about having a chat window on Claude, having a chat GPT subscription or Claude subscription, and just making a few connectors and asking them a few questions about your data, and that's how it is. That's not what it is. At least that's what we think. It's not that. It's a lot more than that. And I'll spend a few minutes on this slide, and I think this becomes extremely critical to whatever AI systems or any engine that you want to deploy in your business, wherein if we were to start from the bottom, and I have been talking about data unification, I think that is the most critical thing, because AI systems, in our experience, need one source of truth. You cannot have multiple sources of truth and then expect it to give you the right answers or solve your problems. So our existing system, Sharetribe, Stripe, HubSpot, Intercom, QuickBooks, whatever that is, any databases, document stores, even Google Sheets, that is sitting at the bottom. You have a harness that we have built, which is agents, connectors, workflows, security, the data pipeline monitoring, and also putting a context layer together on top of this to make sure that it just works seamlessly. We, from an LLM point of view, use Anthropic, but again, as I said, it does not matter, really does not matter. So 3 things I would like to talk about is that it is built per process, right? Start with a real pain point. Let's say we started with collections, we proved it, then move to the next process, brick by brick. There is no one size fits all, absolutely. Data truth is extremely important if you really want your agents to deliver and behave in a way you want them to behave. Without data quality, there is just absolutely no point of implementing any fancy AI agents. They look nice initially, but they will not really deliver the business outcomes that you need to deliver. As said, the model matters the least. It doesn't really matter. Most of the models are really good these days. I believe 9 out of 10 times you could swap any of the top models with each other and you'll get pretty similar results. It won't matter. The harness on top of it, what you do here, matters. Nothing else, actually. What's next for us? We are not even close to where we want to be right now. We are targeting to move to $1 million USD revenue per FTE that we have. We have hit profitability already. We want to continue growing with profit, not instead of it. We have already identified the next 20 workflows between Dirk-Jan and myself. We have written down what are the next 20 workflows. We are actively working towards making sure that we keep chipping away those workflows, keep improving the workflows that we already have automated. This is not about cutting the team further. We have now a small team, compact team, making sure they're spending most of their time on high value work rather than keeping them busy with filling Google Sheets or forms or stuff like that, because a lot of that has to be taken away and the human teams have to focus on really high value work. And the unified data layer I was talking about, we are doubling down on that basically. We are investing a lot of time and resources on making sure that kind of becomes our moat. Last slide from me before we start questions. I'm happy to help. We are actually working with a few companies already to help them with AI implementation, mostly SMEs that we're working with, small and medium enterprises, to help them identify AI opportunities in their business. What are the typical pitfalls? Again, it's coming out of experience. We are not a tech shop, but yeah, it's coming out of experience in real business scenario where AI can help you. And happy to have a chat. This way you can find me, Gaurav at driver.sg. I'm based out of Melbourne. This is my phone number. Feel free to give me a buzz. Happy to have a chat. Yeah, that's all from me. Luis, over to you on questions.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, Gaurav. We haven't received any question here on the Q&A. So feel free to type your questions. In the meantime, Gaurav, I will ask you a question, if
Go
that's
ahead.
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So many of obviously you have been building DriveLab for a long time, and you have had uh, several or at least one funding round. But I believe I understood that you have had more than one.
Yeah.
How would you recommend to build this layer, like this data layer, for somebody that maybe is just not as big or hasn't really gone into this first round of funding, that is maybe bootstrapping or doing something themselves? Would you still think that is a feasible thing to do?
Yeah, I think data building a unified layer has got nothing to do with you being funded or not. It's not. It's these days with what's out there and what you can do with very little. I think these two questions are completely unrelated. Whether you're funded or not, it does not matter. Unification of data and building a unified context layer, as we would like to call it, is all comes from intent, understanding where your data lives. So, for example, a lot of marketplaces today in Sharetribe would have their data, their users' data, listings data. They would have their transactions data sitting in Sharetribe. They would have a lot of data sitting in Stripe, which is the financial transaction data, customer support tickets, CRM systems. You just need to sit down and map out, and that's what we actually have done. Invested a lot of time and energy on that to see how these data systems talk to one another.
Yeah.
It's not about funding where. So I'll give you an example. If a customer comes to you and says, for this particular trip ID, I want to, why was I paid less, or why was my refund? So you have to hop into Sharetribe, you have to hop into Stripe and put all that information together and respond back to them. Now, this has got nothing to do with how well you fund it. This is how you build your system. Yeah.
Yeah, my question was, you already answered it with what, which was like, okay, when you don't have funding, is it easy and not super expensive to build this data layer that is connected so that the LLMs can understand it? Because you said that you have to have a single source of truth, right?
Yes.
Now, we have a question here on the chat. What level of developer would you need in order to create all of these? From Alok Pandya.
Yeah, thanks, Alok, for the question. I think the developer comes right at the end in this whole thing. Of course, you need a developer, and there are plenty of ways. There are plenty of ways you can do this. You need a developer who can, once you come to the tech implementation, somebody who has had their hands dirty with implementing agentic solutions in businesses and taken those to production. You would find a lot of people who would possibly do this as a demo or a POC, but taking it to production and letting your business run on it is a completely different game, is what we realized. For example, when we did Stella initially, it was she was chasing people who had already paid, giving pass to people. People said, "Oh, I cannot pay at this point," and she said, "Yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah, I'll let my manager know." So those kind of things, how to avoid those traps. So you would need people. I think you don't purely need a developer. You need you need a team who can possibly not just understand technical, but has some experience in implementing in a business scenario. That's what I would say. And I'm not saying that's us. I mean, you could talk to us, but you can talk to anybody. There are people out there. But if whenever you look for it, I think you need to look at how much implementation that developer or that team has done with actual businesses live. I think that's what matters, and with actual measurable outcomes. A lot of people can do a lot of things. Building on AI automation has become easy, but does it really deliver outcomes? Has it delivered outcomes is the question.
When you started, was it you who were the main implementer, or how many people did you have on the team building Stella, for example? Was it just an experiment?
No, we have a few people in a team, definitely, yes.
Okay.
But I think nowadays development is again not about the number of people working on it.
Yeah.
Really, I think that ship has sailed completely. And the more important part is to defining what you want, what is the architecture of it. I think that the solution architecting of it, and and together with business becomes a lot. The lines between tech and business have blurred massively now. So gone are the days when the business team will give a PRD to the tech team to just implement. It has to now sitting together, creating the architecture together, and then implementing it is possibly be the way forward on this.
Okay, we have now some questions I find. First up, what stage of a startup do you suggest an AI at this level be implemented? I think it means at what stage should you implement an AI agent?
Day one. Now you have to day one, because the fact remains that it's not something that is reserved for oh, you will hit such a milestone and then you will do it. It is now, it's not about AI agents only. It's not for the heck of it that you will do a AI agent. You now, for anything, for example, you're building a website, you're doing SEO, or you are doing let's say marketing, you're doing finance, as we have demonstrated, anything. If you're not deploying AI engines or AI systems in your any of your functions, then the question is that you're already behind. Irrespective of the stage you are in, you're already behind if you're not doing it. And we already feel ourselves that we are behind still, because we still there's a lot of things you can do, and but the point is, you can do a lot of things, but to bring it to production, make it work alongside your team, is the challenge. And that takes time. That takes a lot of trial and error. Somebody tells you that they can deploy an AI system for you in a week and make it work for you. I won't believe that, because every business is unique. It takes time to implement and learn from it. It's just because you have built business over a period of time. For it to perform at your levels, it will take time.
Yeah. Dirk-Jan was raising the hand, which I assume maybe he wanted to say something. So I invited Dirk-Jan, who's the co-founder of Drive Lab, to also host. I don't know if you can see Dirk-Jan, or now we can see you, and if you unmute yourself, we should be able to hear you.
Okay, great. So thanks. Yeah, so I think on that question, absolutely right. The sooner you start, the better with implementing AI. But I just want to make one extra point here, and Gaurav tried to share that also. It is not about just having an agent or just having one AI tool that you do. What is, I think, important, and at least that's what we think is important, is that you think, how can we transform our business from the core? So if you would just design your business how you think it should be, longer run, right? How do you want to have your business run? And sometimes we hear these stories, right? And right now it's stories of the one person company, and they can be big and they do many things. But the point is, you want to design your company in a certain way. That is what is important. So building a foundation is really what matters. We've had people that asked us questions like, "Can you help us? We want to have a dashboard because we want to see how we can measure our supply and demand, and to see how many of our products we have in our warehouse, and what we need to reorder." That's an important question for that company, for sure. But building a dashboard without really understanding the full data, like where the data sits, and understanding what is really underneath the hood, that doesn't make any sense. It looks nice, you can make it look pretty beautiful, but that is not the question that you need to ask yourself, to how to run the business. So we really believe in, let's say, think about how you want to design your company, how your core processes are, do them process by process, and then design it with AI agents and humans in the loop, whatever is required, right? It's not and that means that maybe jobs for people will just change, because one of the things that we did not talk about, or that Gaurav did not talk about right now during this call, but is also that when you have so many agents that are doing tasks, right? They are running workflows. They also need to be checked, because you need to evaluate how they're doing, right? So because we just launched the last agent that we have. We just launched it last week, and yeah, when you launch it, you what we have done is, you need a sort of team as well to be on top of everything that this agent does, to see, is it really doing what we want it to do. And so you need to think about the whole design on how your people, agents, and systems, processes, how it all works together. I think that's the thing. You need to look at it holistically. That is basically our vision here.
All right. What else do we have now, Luis? I see
We
a
have
few more questions.
Yeah, so we have a question. How did you build the unified data layer? From Lulu Shen. The no-code version data from Sharetribe is rather hard to manage and query. And I think I would translate this question to, maybe the console in Sharetribe is not as easy to manage and query. So I guess you have pulled the information to a separate data
Correct. Absolutely. So if the question is how the unified layer is built, there are a couple of parts to it, and I'm happy to explain this one-on-one separately also if there is less time. But effectively, you have to pull data out of Sharetribe. That's the bottom line. You have to. You have to make your own data lake and pull the data out. Sharetribe has, has all the integrations that you need to do that. Not now. It's been there for a while. So you have to design your database schemas and make sure that you are pulling the data, and you have put your pipelines, whether you do event based or whatever you want to do. I mean, you build your own data lake, and bring all the associate data together. And that's where and on top of it, you build the layer, the agentic layer, which will talk to that data. But you have to pull data out of Sharetribe, because you cannot be querying Sharetribe data directly from the platform via API calls, because I don't think that's great. Personally, we have seen that you have to pull data out of Sharetribe, because sometimes you have to query a lot, you have to run a lot of queries, and there's latency and stuff like that. So you have to create your own data lake for that.
Okay. Lee Day says, our biggest barrier to conversion at the moment is calendar latency. Owners often list across multiple platforms, so apparent availability in the marketplace isn't necessarily real availability.
Correct.
Did Drivela encounter a similar challenge as you scale, and how did you approach solving it? And then
Yes, that's a great point. And actually that is also a challenge that we have faced in the past, and wherein car owners do not actively update their calendars. Now, this is less of an AI question and more of a product experience question, but let me try and answer that. So you have to understand there are a couple of ways of attacking this. High level on my head, and of course you do keep pushing people, give people reminders on, they have to update their calendars. So in our case, the technique that we implemented was that for our car owners, we do have GPS devices fitted in our cars. So whenever cars were moving outside of trips, we realized that those cars are being used. So we kept pushing reminders to people saying, we see that the car is moving outside of trip. If you want to block it, please go ahead and block the calendar, or auto block the car. So that is something that was very specific to us as a business. But you've got to find triggers in your platform which tells you that that particular listing that you have may or may not be available. So you have to search for those triggers. For us, the trigger was because we had a movable asset, so we could see where if the car is moving outside of trip. The second thing is, of course, this is also about car, as we call it internally, Dirk-Jan and myself also, and Dirk-Jan can also add to it, also about host management, right? And you have policies in place, systems in place for people who advertise that their listing is available, but they don't accept the booking then. So you have to go after them, have to have maybe a carrot and stick approach there. Segment these users, people who are habitual offenders, and maybe even offboard them if it doesn't work, right? So there are different techniques on host management which you can deploy to make sure your calendar availability is accurate on the platform. And Dirk-Jan also handles host management directly, so maybe he's in a better position to answer this question further.
Now you shared everything there, I think. But the key thing is it's not an AI thing per se. Sure, AI can help you with certain things, like if you have, in our case, for example, thousands of hosts, then doing it with people that need to manage a lot of hosts is very hard. So you can flag certain things, but I think the key thing is in this one, and also for other marketplaces, I can imagine it's incentives. So you need to drive it based on the incentives that you give. Yeah, and that's the carrot and stick approach, you could say, but incentives and policies to make people do what you want them to do. And so for us, it meant we say if people become super hosts, so that means we say they don't decline. If they don't decline bookings, the acceptance rate is very high. So that means they need to update their calendar. Yeah, then you get incentivized. So then you get more demand. And so yeah, it's more about incentives and policies than AI. AI can help you with a lot of data to get it visible for you quickly as a host team.
Thank you, Dirk-Jan. Thank you, Gaurav. A few more questions. How do drivers and passengers contact your support team? Same channel for both, and how much of it have you managed to automate with AI? I think you mentioned some of it, but maybe you can go a little bit deeper.
Yeah. So right now, more than 70% of our conversations are being handled by AI directly. The channel, the biggest channel remains chat. Chat on the platform. Basically, we have a chat widget with Intercom, which we have deployed on Sharetribe. The other window is voice calls. We have actually on voice right now, 100% of voice is through humans at this point. We have been running tests on voice for the last now more than 4 months in the background, and while we are ready to take voice live, we are still perfecting it before it is even production ready, because that is an experience we cannot afford to mess also, because can become very evident if it is AI. So that is something that we're working on. So it has run some tests around 4 months now. Maybe in another couple of weeks we'll be ready to launch voice as well. So those are the two channels that we have primarily for host and guests to reach out to us. Luis, anything else?
Yeah. I see a question from NY, but I think the question needs a bit of clarification. I was about to reply that, but did you add agentic touches bit by bit, or got entire departments and replaced with end-to-end AI solutions all at once?
No.
By
It's
the
by
way,
bit by bit. It's bit by bit, 100% bit by bit. It's not one go implementation at all. It is going bit by bit, learning as you go along. It is not as fancy as some people on LinkedIn and X tell you it is. It is not. It is also painful in the sense that it's not doing what you expect it to do. It's responding not what you expect it to respond. It gets frustrating. When it starts working, you have to manage change in your team. Change management is also extremely important in your team, because as founders and possibly owners of the business, you would like to believe, yeah, this is great, but guess what your team thinks about it? And the people can feel threatened with it, and that is an extremely tricky part that initially we were also taken aback, but then of course we worked through it. But that is not a part that we should underestimate. So you cannot do one stroke changes on any of these things. It takes time, it takes effort. So that is the operator side of the story, because what you hear on social platform, on LinkedIn and X, is that people fired their functions overnight, and everything is being done by AI. Sure, but that's not true. In real life, it works slightly differently, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, Dirk-Jan.
Yeah, maybe I want to add one thing also there. It's indeed a bit by bit approach, or step by step, and also really important to start early. What we have also seen sometimes, and we understand it, because you always, as owners of the business, you make the decision between what's happening now and in the long term and the short term. And it's sometimes you're in a phase where you think, oh, let's think long term right now, and that's it. But then that's on that day that you want to think strategically, then some operational issues happen, right? And then you think, oh, let's just firefight right now and let's just get this done.
Yeah.
What tends to happen is that you start to overthink about what you all need to do in AI. Surely your structure needs to be right, the harness, what Gaurav talked about, but it is important. The regrets that we have is that for certain things we should have done it much quicker. And so we think we are pretty confident for ourselves that we were in our mobility space ahead of the curve when we started 18 months ago. We think we're still at a good level, but we still feel that compared to our own plans, we are behind. So we still want to go faster and do things. And I think one important point is you want to think big, but you need to start small and now.
Yeah.
Don't wait.
All right. Last question from Lisa, and I think we are out of time. If you have any more questions at the end of this, you can, of course, contact Gaurav. There's the contact details there. Or in the event page will stay available. The recording will go there. You can ask questions there, and I can make those questions available to Gaurav, where we can answer them later there. So Lisa says, I love this info, Gaurav, and also Dirk. There's comments. We are about to launch and learn, so the near-term focus is paying attention at the basic level. But what I'm hearing is to watch for which part of the business would benefit most from AI. Then use that learning data to decide where we invest. And the question you raised really stuck with me. How do we design the business the way we want it to be? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, my only thought would here be that I think we we would like I would like to stop thinking of it as an option. It is no longer, I think, an option whether you which you choose. It is the way of doing business. It is no longer about, oh, can I right now do without AI and then later having AI automate with AI and later automate, and right now let me just do what I need to do. I think that ship has sailed already. So what is important? What is important is that it's almost like saying whether I need app for my business, for my online business, whether I need a website for my online business. It's almost equivalent to saying that. And the answer to that question is yes. Then you need to have this as part of what you're building, irrespective of, as I said, stage you are in, because it's not about the money. It is not about the funding. Right? You're paying far less for your AI subscriptions than for some of the other things that you're paying for. Right. So it is more important to understand. I think Lisa made a very good point, and I don't think we can cover that right now, but of thinking about design the business we want it to be. I think that is the question. That is really the question. How do you want your business to be? Right. It is not about, and I think somebody made a point about, a 6-month roadmap or a 12-month roadmap, something like. It's not about those roadmaps. It's about saying, okay, how do I want my business to run? How do I want my customer experience to be? And then see where AI and all of these can fit in. But to treat AI as an option, I think that part, maybe that part is something that we have, as we have learned, is, yeah, it is, we're well past that now.
All right. So that's our time. Thank you very much, Gaurav. Thank you, Dirk-Jan, also for joining us. Dirk, any last?
Yeah, maybe I want to just share one thing. Over the last couple of years, we started in 2018, basically with on Sharetribe, and in 2019 we launched. We've had we really like the community also. So what we've seen is that over time, when Sharetribe shared certain things sometimes about our company, people reached out to us. We are founders just like many here on the call. We're happy to help, and I think that's the one thing that we do. We have done. We appreciate it. Also, we've seen that doors were open with other people as well when we ask questions. We still get questions. Hey, I want to build a marketplace in another region that's not a competitor of ours, and say, hey, how do we do it? Or how do you manage supply and demand, and what do you do first, and so on. We have our experience from our side. We are happy to help where we can. Just reach out, and then we can see how we can contribute to you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dirk-Jan. And that's exactly the reason why we build this community, and hopefully this can grow into founders helping each other succeed. Thank you, everyone who joined. If you want to be in contact later with Gaurav, he has shared the details, and maybe we can post them in the event page. So thank you again, and yeah, have a nice rest of your evening if you are in Australia, Melbourne, and your day if you're in the US or in other parts of the world. Thank you again, everyone.
All right. See ya.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.